here we are, Cairo Mafia, again with my brother from another mother, Joe Borio, and we are very freaking excited today for a good friend. Known you for years, Baron. Man, the stuff that you have done, you're more principled than the majority of the chiropractic profession. So we don't need a freaking title or a piece of paper to say that the principle runs through your genes for sure, through your blood, through all the spaces between the atoms, between the electrons and the, protons and neutrons there. You are the chiropractic principle. So we're excited to have you on with us today.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. Obviously, the feeling is mutual. Very blessed to be used the way God's using me. And man, we got a mission. We're not stopping anytime soon. That's for sure.
Yeah, big time. So for people that don't know you, why don't you give a little background of your story, how you got into what you're doing, the evolution of what you're doing and what you're doing now? And
All right. Yeah, so I'm not a chiropractor. I've been in the industry. I'm celebrating my 26th year in chiropractic. I've self-proclaimed myself the profession's biggest groupie it's ever had, and I have the T-shirt and everything to prove it. But yeah, it's been God's journey, man. I can't explain the path that I've been in. I started as a CA. Never been to a chiropractor. No one in my family had ever been to a chiropractor. Started in an office, got hired because I never shut up and I knew everybody in my town and he wanted new patients. And so I got a job and he was a David Singer client. So I learned the primary script, 4-day report of findings, all that fun stuff, and was very good at what I did because, at root, I'm a con artist. It's only by the grace of God that I use it for the powers of good, but I'm very good at communicating and conveying energy and passion. And long story short, I fell head over heels in love with chiropractic. It blew my mind. I was pissed that I didn't know that it existed, that I didn't have it in my life prior to that time. And I just made a deal with God that I was going to own this thing. I was going to learn everything I possibly could. I was never going to be in a situation that I couldn't explain chiropractic to somebody. And I was never going to miss an opportunity to make sure someone knew that it existed. And so
okay,
over,
hang on.
yeah,
If the majority of chiropractors just have that one commitment, that's all it takes.
yeah.
One commitment. You just said it right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you. And when I teach, I tell them the same thing. I'm like, there's nothing special about me. I'm not very intelligent. I'm definitely not very good looking, but you will never, ever, I'm the guy you do not want to sit next to on an airplane because you are going to have a chiropractic appointment scheduled by the time we're done. Like that's just all there is. But yeah, so, I've been on this journey. I've owned clinics. I was learning how to adjust as a non-chiropractor when I was 20 years old, sending myself to technique seminars just so that I could understand why the adjustments were working because I couldn't get that answer from David. I couldn't get that answer from a lot of consultants. They just kept telling me the verbiage to say. And as I learned more about the adjustment and the power of it, I moved into consulting. I started consulting around and helping chiropractors find their passion again for chiropractic. Then I took the seat of the executive director of the Ohio State Chiropractic Association, did that for 6 years, learned a whole lot about the underbelly of our profession and how things really operate. And in 2016, I got very fed up with our profession, and we are really the only group that I've ever met that has the most powerful gift to give humanity, right? I mean, there was a book written about that back in the day. The man's greatest gift to man is chiropractic, and I believe that. I think the adjustment can balance the federal budget. Like I'm so convinced that a happy, healthy society will self-regulate and self-heal, just like our body is innately designed to do. And so I'm so committed to that, but we spend more time circling the wagons and shooting inward. And we are allergic to success as a profession. Like every time things are going well, we do something to screw it up. It's just amazing to me. And there was a quote from Buckminster Fuller that I read that said that you cannot change an existing reality by fighting it. You have to create a new model that makes the old model obsolete. And it was just one of those God divine moments where I'm like, you're absolutely right. And so I resigned from my job as the executive director of the association. And we created One Chiropractic with a group of individuals for that distinct purpose, was to create a different model of how chiropractic operates. And, we've gone through our evolution since 2016, but I'm
Okay,
so
hang on.
proud of where God took us and where we landed.
First of all, I feel lazy as a chiropractor just listening to you now. I'm like, geez, man, I need to do something significant here.
Well, you can't say that, Fred. You've been doing significant stuff forever. But yeah, so that's my journey, man. I my life's mission is to make chiropractic the number one healthcare choice in the world. And I want to do that by collaborating. I want to do that by no longer fighting over the same stuff we've been fighting over. This isn't a straights and mixers conversation. This isn't a vitalistic versus mechanistic. Those conversations are dead. There's no place for that in today's world. Right now, it's about us organizing and coming together to speak the truth of chiropractic. And I believe wholeheartedly, because I've seen pockets of this, that when we remove those conversations that cause us to argue, we actually have a lot more in common. It's very similar to religion. If churches would just stop arguing over pre-trib, post-trib, all that other garbage, and just say we believe in the salvation of Christ, let's just move forward on that one concept. The impact and the revival that would happen in our land is unmeasurable. But I think the same in chiropractic. And so we are an organization. I don't care what flag you fly. I don't care if you do laser or nutrition or whatever. We are at a point right now in history where chiropractic has the biggest opportunity it's ever have to take its rightful place in healthcare. But it only happens when we organize. We have a slogan that we're putting out right now that 10,000 chiropractors moving in one direction are unstoppable. And we want 10,000 people moving in one direction. And that one direction is protecting the rights of practicing chiropractors around the world to be able to practice as they choose. I know in my heart, and I don't care if people get pissed off about this, I know my philosophical beliefs and my vitalistic beliefs are what will resonate, and that is the cream that will rise to the top. But I don't need to argue with you about it. Let's just go out there. You do your thing. I'm going to do mine. And let's see which one of us are happier and more successful. Because I know my path is, and I know your path leads to a lot of frustration and variables you can't control. And so eventually you're going to want to come to my camp and you're going to want to live the way that I live. So I'm not going to fight with you about it. I'll help you live the way you want to live. But I know eventually you're going to come to my side because it's the only place where purity and truth exists. So I don't want to fight with you. I'm going to help you live the way you want to live. But that's just the mantra that I think we need to start having in today's chiropractic.
Well, it's not resistance, right? It's not the path of resistance. It's aligning.
That's 100% right.
Yeah.
100% right.
So I want to say another thing, and I know this is you, Joe, because you heard it from Reggie Gold. And one thing you said, you said so much, yet there were so many one-liners that are, if the whole profession could get that one thing. And I know I was like that first time at DE, man. First time I heard the principle, I never thought of building a practice. I thought this is a message of humanity. Yeah. I mean, the reason that Joe did what he did and, that I built a good sized practice was because the purpose was always to change healthcare.
Right.
And how do you change healthcare? By every patient living chiropractic, their kids live chiropractic. And we talk to their kids in a way, you got an 8-year-old kid, I'm going to talk to you in a way that you're going to say this thing to your kids 25 years from now.
That's right.
Because we want to affect generations.
That's right. 100%. 100%.
And I think we can do it in our lifetime.
Oh, we are going to. I have the vision very clear. I really do. And we're seeing pockets of that. And the beauty of what we're getting to do internationally by bringing Australia, New Zealand, and Canada and the United States really, into one conversation rather than this just being, US because we have the most chiropractors. I'm finding such joy in watching the transition that's happening as we have success in these smaller markets and be able to bring it back to the United States and show people what happens when we actually do organize. And, what we did in Australia during the COVID lockdowns, it was epic, man. We had 900 chiropractors and we literally shoved the shit out of the government. I mean, we basically told them, I dare you, come lock our doors, come throw us in jail. We're ready. And not a single person was shut down. Like 900 people moved in one direction during a very, very crazy time. We challenged the status quo. Our attorneys were there to support them. They felt aligned. They felt connected. They didn't feel alone. And we were successful, 100% of them. That's a pocket within the last 2 years that I'm telling you, if we do that now, this is where our 10,000, people moving in one direction are unstoppable because we've seen pockets of that. We saw the same thing in British Columbia, Canada. We got 300 chiropractors and a number of other healthcare providers. We stood the ground against the Ministry of Health when they wanted to put COVID restrictions and vaccine requirements. And we basically said, absolutely not. We stood our ground and they had to back off. So there is power in this organization, this collaboration and organizing that we're trying to do. And I'm going to argue it's been our profession's biggest weapon that we've never utilized is us working together in a direction. Like we do it when we're literally under attack, but we've never proactively done it, because we've always been ACA, ICA. We've always been, pick your camp, and both are separated. Neither one of them have. And this is a statistic that most people don't realize. Right now, both organizations combined, ACA and ICA, have less than 10% of the membership of the United States. And those are our only two national organizations. 10%. 8,000 paying members combined between the two organizations, and we have 86,000 licensed chiropractors in the U.S. So that means 90% of our profession does not belong to a national organization. Like if that's not screaming the reality of what's been happening here in the United States, and that has to change. Like that just, there's no wonder we can't get any advancement. We can't get Medicare language. We can't, whatever it is they're chasing, it's never going to happen, because the critical mass, that tipping point, as Simon Sinek talks about, when you get over that 15 to 18% where it goes into the tipping point, we can't even do it with our own profession because nobody trusts these organizations anymore. And so that's part of what needs to shift. And the exciting part is we have a generation that doesn't carry that baggage of the 80s, that I'm excited. We're really on a precipice of some scary but yet exciting things happening as we get a generation that isn't really anchored with a lot of that anger and frustration that happened during the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is the schools have changed. So now the kids coming out of school now, they don't even know what chiropractic is. And then, you talk to doctors all the time, finding someone coming out of school that can actually adjust.
Oh, yeah.
That's like the philosophy, let alone the mechanical skills.
Yeah.
That's intentional.
Yeah, there is. And people ask me all the time, like, I have a very unique perspective. Like the world that I live in and the things that I deal with is a very unique perspective. And I get to see a lot of the success, a lot of the, potential advantages that we have, but I also deal with a lot of the junk. And our job is to forecast where we think the next battle is coming from so that we can prepare for it and be ready, right? That's our job in being the special forces of the profession. And so I'm going to tell you, I agree with you with all of that. In my opinion, there's 3 schools right now that are even coming close. And I'll argue with you, even those kind of missed the mark, in my opinion. I mean, my daughter just graduated from one, and I had to work with her to teach her how to adjust after she got done. And I'm not even a damn chiropractor, because she came out so fearful of adjusting because of what the school, was forced into. And my son's at Life right now. And so, I'm curious to see how that process is going to go, how he's going to come out of school. But it's, I'm going to tell you this, and I can say this comfortably on this podcast. Our God is a powerful God, and I trust him, and he's got a plan, and all of this stuff is orchestrating into something. All we have to do is make sure we're taking advantage of the opportunities he gives us, and we rest on his outcomes, whatever they turn out to be.
Absolutely.
And I believe our schools are going to be going through a revelation and a revival, because I think the market's going to start demanding that. And that's all part of this organization that we're trying to do. And I think you're going to start seeing a massive shift that's happening in the way that we're delivering the education for chiropractic. And you're going to see a pendulum shift that went from business skills is going to come back to the art. And I think you're going to start seeing, we're seeing that with groups like Syntropy. We're seeing that with other groups where they're growing like crazy. They've got 200-300 people in a room learning how to adjust again. And students that aren't getting it in their schools, they're going, my son and daughter were just at one in Atlanta, and I'm telling you, the room was full, and half of it were students, and they're first quarters that are starting to adjust, which is amazing. I think that's so important that we're not making them wait till 8th quarter to get their hands on somebody. And so there is a positive shift that's happening. And I think that pendulum is going to continue to swing.
Yeah. Hey, sorry, Joe.
No, I agree. I'm a Sherman guy. I didn't go to Sherman, but I was on the board at Sherman, and I don't think there's a better leader out there in principal chiropractic than Jack Borla, the president of Sherman, and a lot of work they've done with the IFCO, and I just love them, and Liam Schubel and Danny Knowles and Peter Kevorkian, a lot of people that were instrumental in that, bringing Edwin Cordero and turning that school around. So what I find that they did was shine a light on, hey, we could be a successful principal chiropractic school. I think a lot of schools got scared thought they needed to bring in all these other disciplines or change some of that curriculum in an effort to be more acceptable to the outside players, where I think Sherman is doing a fantastic job and being that that flagship, that leader to say, hey, listen, we got their enrollment's up. The school's one of the most beautiful schools out there, and you got a great leader there to bring chiropractic principle to the world. So I agree with you. I see the pendulum shifting, and then other schools are going to look at that and go, hey, listen, if they can do it, we can do it. And we got to change the boards. We got to change the board of trustees, because that's where a lot of that starts, and then push that curriculum different and add the adjustments and the chiropractic philosophy and drive that through the school, so the kids come out impassioned and excited and focused, and that's really the last ingredient to, I think, to switch it around. So
yeah, no, I don't disagree.
I want to make a comment when you said I trust God.
Yeah,
I was working out the other day, and just going from one area to the other. And when, you ever see the movie Liar Liar with Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
yes.
When he beats the shit out of himself in the bathroom?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what I feel like when I'm in the gym, man. Like on a
Yeah.
leg day, smashing this thing against your head, because you walk out. So in between, going from the pull-up bar to pull-downs or whatever, you feel like Jim Carrey after he just beat the shit out of himself. But then your mind is clear. And a very loud voice in my head said the new healthcare system in the new world is energy healing. And because that's what it's always been until Rockefeller started pharmaceutical companies, right? It's always been energy healing, and chiropractic is the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
Because you can do Reiki, you can do all this stuff, but you got to have energy moving down your spinal cord, man. You have to address spinal structure. And that is the tip of the spear. If thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, we're bringing heaven to earth. That's chiropractic.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, because if you look at anything diagnostic measures energy field, an MRI measures energy field, an X-ray is measuring a field of density, right? An ultrasound is measuring field. A CT is measuring fields and fields of density. It's energy. So it's interesting that all our diagnostics, or many of our diagnostics, right? EKGs, ECGs, everything, they're measuring fields, and yet we look at it from a chemical, mechanical, rather than, or eliminating that energy, other than obviously chiropractor is not the only one, but looking at that expression of energy through the body. So 100%, Fred, I agree with you 100%. It's all going there. So.
Well, I think what you're doing, we unite on that message. That your body, health is energy. Healing is energy. You got to have a strong nervous system.
Yep.
That's the source, right? Other than spirit, right?
Yep.
Right.
No,
crooked doesn't make it better, right? Crooked doesn't make it better. More crooked you are, you got less energy flowing through the body's not going to be as healthy. I mean, it's so, for them to make it simple so that they can digest it. There's no health in crooked. What happened? And I always say, people, if you ask the average person, especially kids, right? We've all had this experience. If you ask a child, like, what tells the body what to do? Everybody says the brain. How does the brain talk to your body? Through nerves. Where do the nerves have to go? Through the spine. So if the spine's crooked, does it work better or worse? It works worse. So what straightens the spine? Advil, right? No. Injections? No. Surgery? No. You got to push on it like you do with crooked teeth. I mean, so if they can understand it that way, and just understand, my simple principle has always been chiropractic is good for you. It doesn't have to cure blindness, though it can. It doesn't have to get rid of sinus problems, though it can. It doesn't have to get rid of sciatica, though it can, or immune issues or whatever. I'm not saying that, but the bottom line is getting adjusted is good for you. Going to a chiropractor regularly is really good for you. If we could just get that basic premise down, so that people aren't going for an antidote, or like, hey, listen, my headache, migraine didn't go away, I don't need care, or it didn't work. We got to get out of that language and get into the language that, listen, getting adjusted is good for you. Energy transfer, expression of life, vital force. Once they get that, then the game changes. The ball moves. Now we're not being therapeutic. We're not looking at it from a medical, anecdotal type therapy treatment. You're doing something that enhances or allows the body to work as was intended. And if you can get them to understand that, and the world and our language as chiropractors can at least have that as a foundation, then everything changes. So
100%. Very well said,
man. So what you got going now? So now you formed this organization, you've made an impact in countries with chiropractic, which is awesome. So what are you involved in right now? And what's
Yeah.
your
So we have, yeah, my vision is again, the organizing, right? We believe it or not, we've done the math. We've looked at, we've been doing this work long enough to be able to know that's where the 10,000 number came from. That if I can get 10,000 chiropractors connecting underneath us, giving $33 a month, then that gives us enough resources and it gives us the army we need that we could take on pharma, we could take on the hospitals, we could take on AMA, we could take on any battle that faces chiropractic. I mean, the math works with 10,000 individuals. So that's our goal, is to organize worldwide 10,000 chiropractors under the same roof. There's an economic component to that. That generates just under $4 million a year that are completely dedicated to the defense of chiropractic. But it also gives me my tribe that I can move left, right, and center at any given moment. It gives me the ability to aggregate data. It gives me the ability to get, testimonials, to get whatever I need for the particular battle that I'm facing. But we're headed to, we're headed to a place where we are going to have to lead healthcare. We've never led healthcare because we've always been the redheaded stepchild. But for us to lead healthcare, that means we're going to have to be ready to go against some big, anatomical forces. So perfect example, which is a battle we're fighting right now in Australia. There was a chiropractor that posted a video back in 2019 of him treating a child and held him upside down by the feet. People went ape shit over that. Like, it was just this massive. There's a group out there called Friends of Medicine and Science or something like that, and they hate chiropractic. And about every 3 years, they stir up some kind of crap and start slandering chiropractic, saying it's not safe, it's not a real profession. Well, this group got a hold of that video and they started slandering all over, saying, "Look at what chiropractors are doing to children. It's unsafe. It's not right." Over a period of a year and a half, what happened was the regulatory authority there created what they called Safer Care Victoria, which was a work group to come out and look at the safety and efficacy of chiropractic with children. They did a public survey. Over 27,000 responses came in, largest in the history of Australia. They put together a special group to look at all the evidence and science to see what the efficacy and safety for chiropractic with children was. And then they came out with this summary judgment, or this outcome recommendation, if you will, that said children 12 and under shouldn't see chiropractors, because although they didn't have a single shred of evidence to support it, they didn't find one instance of a chiropractor hurting a child. As a matter of fact, in those 27,000 surveys that came back, it was 99.7% positive about parents' experience with their children in chiropractic. The largest public survey ever, really, I think worldwide, but definitely in Australia. The special group they put together of other practitioners could not find one instance of there being any injury or a negative effect to a child through chiropractic. And they went to the malpractice carrier in Australia, whose name is Guild. They have 90% of the malpractice in Australia. Not one single malpractice case against a chiropractor through a child. But yet they still came out and said they don't recommend children 12 and under. Well, the regulatory body took that consensus, that conclusion, that recommendation, and they actually put in place in 2019 a policy that said chiropractors could not do a high amplitude, low velocity adjustment to 2 and under. So essentially said chiropractors can't see 2 and under kids. So they had not a single basis for it. But these are the types of things that we need when I say we need to lead healthcare. When these types of things happen, we have to be organized enough to immediately shut that shit down. And so we're actually right now about ready to launch a restraint of trade. In November, we were able to get that policy reversed. We worked in conjunction with the Australian Chiropractic Association, with the Australian Pediatric Association, and us, and we were able to force the regulatory body to remove that 2 and under policy. So that is a success. But we're going after restraint of trade, and we're going to hold them accountable for even putting that stuff out and not telling the whole story. So we are going to do a smear campaign of the Australian government and create a platform for us to really talk about the safety and efficacy of chiropractic. That's what I mean about leading healthcare. When we have our people organized and we have the resources to be able to do this, where I don't have to go out and do fund drives, And we can hire the best attorneys, the best PR firms. We can actually use the very same game they've used against us to start leading the information age. We have the internet. We have free advertising on a level that we've never had before, but we've never been organized enough because we're too bitching over whether we're using the term subluxation or whether we're using adjustment. And so we don't do anything because we're too busy fighting over it. Just like you said, Joe, if we could just use the simple concept, or Fred, let's just say the energy, right? Crooked spine mean there's not good energy flowing through your body. I don't care what the message is, but we have an opportunity to start leading in this arena. And what I found through our organization is our profession's tired of people talking about what needs to be done. They want to get behind people doing something. Right. We grew to 4,000 contributors because we did something. We didn't ask for permission. I didn't go out and get a consensus. I didn't do a survey. I did what needed to be done, and people were happy that they could actually be with an organization that was going to do what they said they were going to do. And that's not a slam on any other organization, but we've all been in the industry long enough where we've seen these strategic plans and we've seen all these great ideas and all these fundraising. And then you're sitting in your office like, I don't know if anyone's doing anything for chiropractic because it hasn't affected me day one. So we were immediately doing that stuff. So I think where I see things going and why I'm so positive is because the work that we do in New Zealand, for example, we have an opportunity in New Zealand right now. And I'm going to argue they have probably one of the strongest chiropractic schools. The New Zealand School of Chiropractic is, but I mean, they're pumping out the best research. They have no arguments there. Everyone is just, they're killing it in New Zealand. And it's a very, very small country that we can actually have massive impact. Like I can go there and talk to the prime minister, like without really any trouble because it's such a small country that as we lead in little countries like that, and we start putting infrastructure and showing them what happens when chiropractic is at the forefront of their healthcare delivery system, because we are the best at looking at all options and actually promoting health rather than expanding sickness, that is when things start changing. And that's the work we're doing. So we're doing that through our C3 health missions, where we're actually going into countries and working with governments and explaining to them how chiropractic should be utilized. And then we're doing it in the defense side by shutting up these other idiots that are saying dumb things about us. It creates a phenomenal opportunity for us to lead healthcare by giving the factual evidence of what we're experiencing every single day in our clinics. And it's a pretty awesome opportunity, man. We're super stoked to be able to do it.
Yeah, for sure. The Scotland, Ross McDonald starting the chiropractic.
Oh yeah, very excited about that. Yeah,
yeah, that's going to be on par with New Zealand as far as the principal. I mean, he's such a phenomenal guy.
He is. He's an amazing human.
To do that, I mean, unbelievable. Talk about a doer right there. Yep. On top of running his own office and family and at Burroughs lectures, he does all that. I mean, it's amazing, that guy. Yeah. And we should definitely pay him some certainly recognition and respect. And then you're right on the associations. I mean, I've been at it 33 years and, I've known great people to run. I've known great people to be president, but in the end, nothing gets done. I mean, I've been in New York State for 33 years and I'm telling you virtually nothing.
Well, that's because you have two associations and they're so segmented.
Years have been in practice.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah. And that was part of why we created One Chiropractic the way that we did. And this is not a slam on associations. I'm a lover of associations. I really am. No, I get it. But I think people don't understand the role of an association. And because they're the only thing there, we expect them to do everything. And they actually can't. And that was why we created One Chiropractic, to build that new model. The reason state associations don't do the work that most of the members want them to do is, number one, they're a membership organization, which means they have to get permission from the membership to take a stand. So you're not going to see an association draw a line in the sand because they're going to piss off half of their membership. And so they won't do anything because their livelihood depends on their dues coming in. And if they say no drugs in chiropractic, then half of the membership is going to be pissed at them for saying that. If they say, okay, we're going to work to expand the scope of chiropractic, half of their membership is going to, so they're paralyzed. Then you have a board of directors, and with all due respect, there's only about 15% of any board that are the doers. The rest of the people are just placeholders. Sure. And you can't get them to agree on anything, whether it's 5 to 12 people.
Right.
And so there's just a landmine. It's the same thing that's happening to ICA, same thing that's happening to ACA. Anytime you have a structure where it's a member organization, you're limiting the ability of that organization to truly have effectiveness because of its structure. So it's not, now they have a place. They do great continuing ed. They do lobbying and defend. They do good work in that regard. But they're never going to be that organization that's going to step out and advance chiropractic, because to do so could be cutting their own head off. And that's why, you know, the same issue you have colleges. Like, why our schools haven't rallied together and just taken a stand for certain things. They won't do it because they don't want their funders to get pissed off. So they stay neutral. And I'll say this publicly, Palmer just denied me from speaking to a group of students because they don't like that I yell all the time that Palmer's been stuck in the mud for the last 15 years. No one knows what they stand for. Like, right. Yeah, we just don't know, because they don't want to piss anybody off. So they stay in Switzerland and no one really knows what they're doing. And so that's the problem you have with those organizations, which one of the things we wanted to do was partner with those organizations so that we could take the heat off of them to do the dirty work and let them flourish in the work they're doing, but the issues still be resolved. And that's been working very well, honestly. And it's that collaboration mindset, but it is very difficult. It's very difficult for them to do the work that needs to be done.
Well, wouldn't it be, I mean, yeah, taking a stand on one side or putting a line in the sand may be polarizing, but, you know, wouldn't it, and maybe I just don't get it, and maybe, you know, I think like you do, I would rather polarize them, because then you would be a magnet to the people that agree. You know what I mean?
And that's where you have the two associations, but even within the two associations, this is where, and I love chiropractors. I mean, my life has been committed to you guys, but you're the most difficult groups of sons of bitches to actually work with. Right. Like you mentioned IFCO or ICA, right? These are all supposed to be like-minded. Do you know how much they fight within themselves on their own things? Like, it's to get a consensus on a concept is extremely difficult in chiropractic. So Fred, I agree with you, but we can't, like, you almost can't get it to a finite enough point where you have enough people that say yes to that we're willing to put money and resources in to go, which is why we said, I'm just going to start doing the work. And then you'd be amazed how many people are under our umbrella that you would never think are under this umbrella, but they just love that shit's getting done. That they love that they're getting a video every other week. They love that they can see wins. They love that they're a part of something that said no, right? And so I've got all kinds of camps under my umbrella that you would never expect, but it's only because we're doing, not telling. Right. And that's what I think, to answer your question, Fred, if the organization would just say, I know what our people want. They want better access, better reimbursement, and they want parity. Because that's what every chiropractor wants, right?
Exactly. Boom.
So we're just going to do it. If people leave, they can leave, but we're going to go in that direction. Then I think you would see a mass, it would become magnetic and people would grow. But it takes a big set of balls to be able to do what we did. And that's just stand up in the face of everything the way it is and say, I'm not fighting you anymore. I'm doing my own thing. And Fred, you know this, I took a lot of heat the first 4 years with One Chiro. I mean, they accused me of all kinds of things, trying to start another national organization, that I was out trying to do all this stuff. And now time has proven that none of that was true, but you got to be willing to take arrows for a period of time whenever you're going against the grain of Mother Earth. So
absolutely. Well, so how can we help you, or even be involved? Like, how can we help give this momentum?
Yeah, again, just send people to defendchiropractic.org. defendchiropractic.org. Everything is on there. You'll see what we're doing. You can see our podcast. I have the State of Chiropractic podcast. We just released the very first ever international chiropractic journal called the State of Chiropractic, where it is literally just talking about the work that's being done for chiropractic. There's no fluff pieces. It's literally just the work that's being done around the world on behalf of chiropractic. We're very proud of that journal. That was just released April 15th. You can find that on our website as well. And all we ask is $33 a month. That's it. So you can just click on there, how to help, contribute now. It's $33 a month, less than one patient visit a month. And I need to get to that 10,000. You know, if I can get to that 10,000, I promise everybody, I will never ask for another penny from any group, organization, or individual. That will give us the resources we need. And then I promise you, no matter what battle comes before chiropractic anywhere in the world, we will be suited and fitted to be able to take that battle on and defend this profession. And we don't have to worry about it. And so that's the message, man.
Nice. And I'm sure there's a reason it's $33.
Well, funny you should say that. Absolutely. After the 33 principles, baby.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Hey,
I
I may
always
be
say
slow, but
the
I'm not
biggest
stupid.
challenge
Not only
with
that,
chiropractors. Well, go ahead, Fred. Go ahead.
I thought I was also thinking 33 was when Christ got crucified.
Ah, that is true. That was his age. You're 100% right. That I didn't think of that correlation, but I love that as well. That's how
Yeah.
serendipitous our God is. That's awesome.
I'm thinking of the challenge, which I say at our docs often, is, what makes a person want to be a chiropractor? Passion, independence, free thinking. Like, that's great, but that ends up being our
Hard to
downfall
herd. Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
So we're passionate, free thinking, and then we get into some organization and like, no, here's
Yeah.
my version of chiropractic, and I went to school, and here's my technique, and this is better than that. And
Yep.
it's like, dude, like, fucking put down the rifle, settle down. We're all in the same group, but you
That's
look at
right.
other groups and frats and sororities, that I
Yeah.
was a part of, and everybody walks lockstep. And I'm not saying, if something's wrong, you shouldn't stand up.
No. You're 100% right.
People walk lockstep. In chiropractors, absolutely not. I mean, it's just like, it just drives me insane. But it is the characteristics that make us want to be chiropractors often ends up being our biggest challenge. So,
well, and it's funny because I'm a huge history buff and I love the history of chiropractic. The very first chiropractic convention was in 1901. There were 11 chiropractors there, and they spent all weekend arguing over what chiropractic was.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, literally, like this has been there from the beginning for that exact reason about who the Palmers were attracting, right? They were attracting the people that were upset with medicine and didn't know where to go. And here's this new thing, but they're bringing their own reality into it. And so there's this constant conflict, and that hasn't stopped since our inception.
I spoke at Michigan Chiropractic Conference way back when, probably 10 years ago. And I was in a room, and there was a chiropractor in there still practicing, 93. So he's about, like, at the time, you're seeing maybe 13, 14 people a day. And we were talking about history and stuff. And he said something interesting. He said, the sky's always been falling in chiropractic. It was the sky's always been falling. He said, so I'm not, I get frustrated that we're not getting where I want to go after 93 years, but I also don't get so panicky when everyone says, something horrible is going to happen.
That's right.
It's our results and the people we take care of that keep us alive. He said, but in the end, if we could just get our shit together, get our head out of our ass, we would take over. Like, we're right there.
That's that 100% right. And people ask me that all the time with the work we do. They're like, who's our biggest opponent? Like, who's the one that's holding us back? And you're 100%. And I look at them, I'm like, you know what they learned probably about 10 years ago? Medicine learned to stay out of our way. That these guys are going to self-implode. We don't need to do anything. We just need to not interfere with them. And so the minute we get organized, that's when we're going to have those battles that everyone's worried about coming. So they are coming, but they're going to come when we get organized and we actually become a threat to their way of life. Right now, we're so busy fighting with each other and having our own internal squabbles and lawsuits and, going after CCE or MBCE, thinking those are all the problems. And those are not the problems. Those are all manifestation of us not being on purpose and not going out and spreading the gospel of chiropractic, period. Yes. Those are all symptoms of us not being truthful and authentic to our purpose. And when we get truthful and authentic to our purpose and we actually come together and organize, we're going to find a lot of the things we're fighting right now go away on their own. And then we can get into the real battles that become generational. And that's the part that we're trying to gear up for. Those days are coming. In my lifetime, I'm 48 years old. In my lifetime, we will have our appropriate seat in healthcare, or I will die trying, because it's our time. This is our time. And I believe God has ordained it. I believe he's prepared it. I believe he's put people like us in this exact time in history to have these exact conversations, because there's something magnificent coming. And I am honored and excited to be a part of that and to play my small role in conjunction with everyone else that he's got involved in this. But we have good days ahead of us, boys, for sure.
Absolutely. 100%. Totally agree.
So in wrapping up, man, I mean, usually we say, hey, what are your last words? But there's a lot of words in there. So
that's
one, if you had to just boil something down that would shift the mindset of chiropractors, I think the overall theme is unity. Absolutely. But what would you say?
Yeah, I would say if this is to an individual that's watching this, because in some part within yourself, you just feel like something's missing. You're not finding the joy in practice. You're not having the success in practice that you need to even provide for your family to do what you know you were called to do on a greater scale. I'm going to ask you to remove everything that you have been told about who you're supposed to be and what you are supposed to be doing. And I'm going to ask you to get on your knees, and I'm going to ask you to start doing the stuff you love. I'm going to ask you to start doing the stuff you love. I'm going to want you to reconnect with that spirit that you had when you were in college and the world was your oyster, and you were going to come out and have a specific kind of practice in a specific way. And I want you to tap into that joy and that love, because God gave us those visions and those dreams for a reason. The problem is we get out of school and then we get pressured with overhead and family and all of these other things, and we start sacrificing what we were really created to be purely for the sake of survival. And it leads you into chasing all of these false idols within chiropractic. And I don't care what your belief system is. We need pain-based chiropractors because we have patients in this world that just want pain management. And I'm okay with that. But what I want you to do is to find what you love and to find what you believe is true, and then surround yourself with people that will help you be that version of yourself, because you can change your, and Fred, you know this, you've been a consultant for years. Joe, you've been around and doing your consulting for years. Clinics can turn around in 1 month, like that, when you find your purpose. But your purpose isn't Fred's purpose. It's not Joe's purpose, and it's sure as hell not my purpose. Your purpose is your purpose. You have to have the confidence and the security to be able to choose that for yourself and then take the steps. But I promise you, you can turn a sinking clinic into a thriving clinic in 1 month when you change this and you fall back in love with the power of that adjustment that you've been trained to utilize and do. So that's my charge to you. Fall back in love with that power of that adjustment and figure out how to spread that into your community on a level that no one else can extinguish.
Absolutely, man. So how do they get a hold of you again?
Yeah, defendchiropractic.org. And if they contact us, it goes right to me. We'd love you to be in our tribe, man. Be one of the 10,000. Help us to ensure that this profession is absolutely protected and advancing and taking advantage of opportunities that God presents for us.
Awesome. So on all that, Joe, last words, man. We're going to wrap this up.
My last words are today when we're off the webinar, I have to do a pediatric series with Chiropassion. And after that, I'm going to defendchiropractic.org and I'm signing up because I'm not a member. So I want to make sure we get our $33 your way. So that'll happen.
Awesome, brother. Love it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I've been a member for a while, but my credit card number changes. Like, okay, we gotta get back on track. And you've spoken at the boot camps. I'd love to have you speak at the boot camps, Joe. You need to have Bharon as a guest speaker at your show. So we'll certainly have you come back. And you said something. One word, like you said, teach the gospel of chiropractic. Now that's a very interesting word. Because when you look at if you want to say a born again Christian, why do they call them Bible thumpers, right? Because they found the Lord. It was such a massive, many times instantaneous change,
right,
that the difference is their purpose comes alive in them.
That's right.
And that's why they go out. So when you say teach the gospel, because the principle of chiropractic is a universal law, life force energy has to come to this matter on this physical plane, right? We come from a spiritual plane into this physical plane, and we got to keep those things connected.
That's right.
And we teach it like you would teach a gospel, then you realize you're not in the customer service business.
That's right. That's 100% right.
Tell people how to live a better life.
That's right.
God out in themselves. You are not telling people what makes them comfortable.
That's right.
Not in the customer service business. You are in the God empowerment business.
Exactly.
Love it. Love it.
Boom.
So
anyway, fired up. Let's go do something.
Let's go.
Ready to go.
Hey, we'll be in touch with you soon, man. I would love to figure out, obviously, we bring you people and we need to have you back to the boot camp. I'd like to find out how to be more involved in that group. So I'll get a hold of you and we'll figure something out.
Love it. Well, I appreciate it, boys. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to your tribe. Always a pleasure. And I look forward to further conversations.
Absolutely. Peace. Hey, subscribe to these, share them, and we'll see you next week.